They have posted, who's your San Juan, Puerto Rico MVP? And these are the candidates: Paige Bueckers, Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, what? Ryan Howard. I can see Howard being in the mix here because her scoring has been lights out. Jackie Young, and then a bunch of other players down here. And all I can tell you is I don't know what happened because I went over and voted once early this morning, and Caitlin Clark was running away with this joker.
Something happened at the 2026 FIBA Women's Basketball World Cup qualifying tournament in San Juan, Puerto Rico. And on the surface, it looked like a simple fan poll. A vote for tournament MVP. Harmless, fun, the kind of thing you scroll past and click once without thinking twice. But what actually went down over those few days in Puerto Rico was anything but harmless. A vote that was running cleanly in one direction, reflecting exactly what was happening on the court, suddenly went vertical in a way that defied every logical explanation. Screenshots started flying. Numbers stopped making sense. And then FIBA stepped in and made an official decision that told you everything you needed to know about what the real MVP picture looked like.
I don't have any idea how Paige Bueckers got this many votes this quickly. And by the way, this was actually a wider spread for a little while. But Caitlin Clark and her fans are catching her up right now. But this was a pretty wide margin when I was over there this morning and Caitlin was leading. I noticed one comment said that Paige had 7,000.
If you have been following women's basketball for the last 2 years, you already know that nothing involving Caitlin Clark is ever simple. There's always a layer underneath. There's always a pattern waiting to be noticed. And what unfolded in Puerto Rico gave us another chapter in a story that is getting harder and harder to dismiss as coincidence. This is the full breakdown of everything that happened, why the numbers are damning, and what FIBA's own decision reveals about where this whole situation stands. Before we get into it, if you're new here and you want to stay ahead of every big story in women's basketball, hit that subscribe button right now. This is exactly the kind of content you need to be following.
The Yukon Mafia, guys, we've talked about them. I mean, the agenda is once again thick. It's real thick right now. I mean, you look down through here, and it is hilarious. All of the pro Caitlin Clark comments to the pro Paige Bueckers comments. It's like 15 or 20 to 1. And I'm like, okay, something's not right. So are we talking about bots?
The return nobody was ready to handle. To understand why this tournament mattered so much, you have to go back to what Caitlin Clark went through in 2025. Her second WNBA season was supposed to be the year she took over the league completely. Coming off a record-breaking rookie campaign, the expectations were through the roof, but injuries had different plans. She appeared in just 13 games that year, a brutal and frustrating stretch that handed her critics every talking point they needed to suggest that her moment had already passed, that others had taken the torch, that the window was closing. So when Clark was named to the Team USA roster for the San Juan qualifying tournament in March 2026, this was not just another international appearance. This was the moment everyone had been waiting for, her senior national team debut. Her first real chance to show that the injury chapter was closed and that the dominant version of her was fully back. And she did not ease into it. She did not spend the first game getting comfortable. Against Senegal in her very first game, wearing a senior team USA jersey, Clark dropped 17 points and 12 assists. Not just solid numbers. Those were the kinds of numbers that announce you are back and you're not messing around. She knocked down 80% of her field goal attempts in that game. She went 4 for 5 from three-point range. In her first senior international appearance, in what was supposed to be the warm-up game, she delivered a performance that looked nothing like a player still finding her footing after a long injury absence. That set the tone for everything that followed. And as the tournament progressed, and Team USA began rolling through their schedule without dropping a single game, a quiet storm was building in the background, one that would eventually overshadow everything happening on the actual court. By the time Team USA's 5-game sweep of the qualifying tournament was complete, Clark's statistical case for MVP had been built brick by brick in a way that was impossible to argue with honestly. She averaged 11.6 points per game while shooting 52.9% from the field and 40% from three-point range. In international play, with physical, disciplined defenses game after game, those shooting percentages are extraordinary. But the number that stood out above everything else was her assist average. Clark led the entire tournament in assists, averaging 6.4 per game. Not just the United States. The entire tournament, across all teams and all players. She was running the offense, creating opportunities for everyone around her, and doing it in her reduced minutes, while still putting up the best efficiency rating on the team. Her efficiency score of 14.6 was the highest on Team USA, and her plus-minus across the 5 games sat at plus 104. Meaning every single time she was on the floor, Team USA dominated the moment.
In points, assists, plus-minus, efficiency, she's killing it. She's killing it right now. I mean, FIBA, you need to take this down. Both bases are buying bot votes. They're accusing the Caitlin Clark fan base of buying bot votes. I just don't know that I get that. That I agree with that. This was 4 hours ago. You can see right there, Caitlin was leading, and then all hell broke loose. I mean, we're talking. Look at these amounts. 168,156.
Rhyne Howard was also excellent throughout the tournament, averaging over 20 points per game with elite shooting percentages. Howard had a legitimate case. Her scoring was lights out from the opening game, and she brought the kind of consistent production that earns recognition. Both Clark and Howard built statistically valid arguments for the award. They were the two engines driving a team that did not come close to losing a single game. Paige Bueckers had a good tournament. She is an exceptional talent, and that is not up for debate. But good is not the same as dominant. Good does not equal the kind of numbers that Clark was posting across 5 straight games while leading the tournament in assists and setting the pace for Team USA's entire offense. And the gap between what the statistics showed and what was about to happen in that fan poll was about to become one of the most talked about disconnects in recent women's basketball history. FIBA launched the fan vote for tournament MVP as a kind of audience engagement feature, a way to let fans feel involved, to spark some conversation, to add a bit of energy around the qualifying tournament. The candidates listed included Clark, Bueckers, Angel Reese, Rhyne Howard, Jackie Young, and several others from across the participating nations. On paper, the poll was harmless. In practice, it became a document of everything wrong with unmoderated internet voting in high-stakes sports.
Are flooding the Paige Bueckers situation. Somebody pointed out there's no way a 3,000 vote gap is surpassed in 15 minutes unless bots are involved. I mean, what is going on here? Right here, FIBA's been unserious this whole tournament, from commentary to this fake voting system. Disclaimer, this fan vote is not an official statement from...
The system had no vote verification, no limit on how many times one person could vote, no bot detection, no rate limiting, nothing that would prevent someone with a basic automated script from flooding the results as many times as they wanted. And FIBA, seemingly aware that this could be a problem, placed a disclaimer at the very bottom of the page that read, "This fan vote is not an official statement from FIBA." Let that sink in for a second. FIBA built a system with zero safeguards, promoted it publicly, and then protected themselves from accountability with a single sentence at the bottom of the page. A sentence that essentially said, "We take no responsibility for whatever happens here." That is the kind of institutional carelessness that invites problems, and the problems arrived almost immediately. In the early hours of voting, the results tracked exactly the way you would expect them to. Clark was building a lead, thousands of votes ahead, with the margin growing steadily as her fan base, known for its size and its energy, engaged with the poll the way normal people engage with polls. Organically, gradually, consistently. And then something else happened entirely. 15 minutes that broke the math. In under 15 minutes, everything changed. Clark had been leading, not barely leading, running away with it, according to people who were watching the poll in real time. And then, without warning, without any visible explanation, Paige Bueckers surged ahead. Not by a few hundred votes, not by a modest, explainable margin, by thousands of votes in a window of time so short that it left people refreshing their browsers in disbelief. 7,000 votes in 5 minutes. A deficit of over 3,000 votes erased in less than 20 minutes total. The comment sections on FIBA's social media posts lit up instantly. Screenshots began circulating with timestamps attached, showing the exact moment the numbers stopped behaving like numbers generated by human activity and started behaving like something else entirely. Fans were doing vote count breakdowns in real time, posting comparisons, tracking the trajectory minute by minute. Here is what made the pattern undeniable. When a fan base is genuinely engaged and genuinely mobilized, they do not just silently click a button. They show up in the comments. They share posts. They make noise. The ratio of pro-Clark comments to pro-Bueckers comments in FIBA's own post was approximately 15-1 in Clark's favor. 15 comments supporting Clark for every one comment supporting Bueckers. And yet, somehow, Bueckers was building a dominant lead in the actual vote count. That is not how organic fan support works. That is not how real people behave when they care about something. When a genuine fan base floods a poll, the comments flood with them. The silence in the Bueckers comment column, while the vote numbers exploded upward, was a pattern that fans immediately started calling out by name. And the name they kept using was bots. Vote totals eventually climbed past 168,000 for Bueckers and 156,000 for Clark in some captured screenshots, with the gap only continuing to grow as hours passed. Later reports indicated that Bueckers' lead had stretched to over 100,000 votes, a number that by any reasonable analysis made the fan vote a completely different document than the one the tournament's actual performance data was writing. The numbers that refused to cooperate. Let's put the fan base comparison into actual context, because the math here matters. Caitlin Clark's fan base is one of the most documented and measurable in the history of women's basketball. When she entered the WNBA in 2024, her games were generating television viewership numbers the league had never seen. WNBA games featuring Clark drew over 3.2 million viewers. Her jersey became one of the best-selling in league history. When Fever tickets went on sale, Ticketmaster servers went down. These are not exaggerations. These are logged, documented, reported facts. Paige Bueckers is a major talent with a growing fan base. She will be playing for the Dallas Wings in the upcoming WNBA season, and there is no question she will bring significant attention with her. But the Dallas Wings struggled to sell out their arena multiple times during their recent seasons. Their fan base, while passionate, exists at a level that is simply not comparable in raw numbers to the scale of Clark's following. So the fan vote was asking us to believe that Bueckers' fan base, which could not consistently fill an arena, somehow mobilized a wave of tens of thousands of coordinated voters in 15 minutes against Clark's fan base, which was simultaneously crashing major ticketing platforms and generating television viewership numbers that made WNBA executives do double takes. The math does not cooperate. It does not work. And anyone willing to look at it honestly already knew that before the screenshots started circulating. The performance on the court said one thing. The fan vote said something completely different. And the distance between those two things was not subtle enough to explain away. The digital paper trail. The most significant development in the entire situation was not the vote swing itself. It was the documentation. Because fans did not just react and move on. They treated the vote like a crime scene, and they gathered evidence. Screenshots with timestamps captured the exact window when the numbers went vertical. Multiple fans tracked the vote count at regular intervals, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, creating a chronological record of how the totals shifted. The pattern that emerged from that documentation was not random. It was not the gradual, organic movement you see when a large fan base is genuinely engaging. It was a spike. A vertical line on a graph that does not exist in nature when human beings are the ones clicking. The technology behind this kind of manipulation is not complicated. Bot farms, which are automated scripts running on multiple devices or accounts, can generate thousands of votes in minutes. They operate with mechanical precision. The timestamp clusters are too tight the intervals too consistent, the volume too extreme to match human behavior patterns. Any competent data analyst can look at the underlying data and tell you in short order whether the traffic was generated by people or by software. Bueckers also has a well-documented presence on TikTok with dedicated fan accounts that are known to organize coordinated voting campaigns for various awards and polls. Organized fan activity by itself is not suspicious. Lots of athletes benefit from engaged online communities that mobilize around polls and votes. But there is a line between organized fan voting and automated vote flooding, and that line is defined by whether the numbers are physically possible for human beings to produce in the given time frame. 7,000 votes in 5 minutes is not physically possible for human beings unless an extraordinary number of people simultaneously, silently, and without leaving any trace in the comment sections, all decided to click the same button in perfect unison while ignoring every other aspect of the platform. That does not happen. What has happened, and what produces exactly that kind of spike, is software. FIBA had the ability to audit the data. IP addresses, timestamp clusters, user agent strings, account patterns. Any IT team with competence in data analysis could identify bot traffic versus organic human activity within a matter of hours. The question was never whether the technology to investigate existed. The question was whether FIBA had the interest in using it, the pattern that keeps showing up. Here is where the conversation gets bigger than one fan poll at one qualifying tournament. Because if you have been paying attention to women's basketball since Clark entered the league in 2024, you have watched a pattern accumulate across different platforms, different organizations, and different contexts. Paige Bueckers comes from the UConn program. She was developed by Gino Orima, arguably the most influential coach in the history of women's college basketball. The UConn pipeline is real and it is powerful. Former Husky players are distributed throughout WNBA rosters, front offices, media positions, and broadcasting roles. That is not a conspiracy theory. That is just the documented reality of how dominant that program has been for 3 decades. The network that comes with that kind of institutional power is enormous. This is not an argument against Bueckers. Her talent is genuine. Her potential in the WNBA is not in question. She is going to be one of the faces of the league for years. But when suspicious dynamics keep appearing in situations where Bueckers and Clark are being compared, when polls go sideways in ways that favor a specific outcome, when a media narrative consistently lags behind what the on-court statistics are showing, that accumulation of incidents stops looking like coincidence and starts looking like a pattern. Clark's fan base has been documenting this pattern with increasing specificity since her arrival in the league. Questionable officiating moments. Media framing that contradicts the statistical reality. Award conversations where the numbers point one direction and the coverage points another. Each individual incident can be explained away in isolation, but taken together, they form a picture that a growing number of people in women's basketball can no longer look away from. And the FIBA fan vote gave that picture another sharp, documented data point. The people pushing back on Clark's recognition are not always operating out in the open. Sometimes it shows up in subtle framing. Sometimes it shows up in poll numbers that defy statistical logic. The tactics vary, but the underlying effect is consistent. In the sloppy execution in Puerto Rico, a vote swing so extreme and so rapid that it was being called out in real time by thousands of people suggests that whoever is behind these efforts has grown comfortable enough to stop pretending to be subtle. Then FIBA made their decision, not about the fan vote, about the actual official tournament MVP award. And on March 17th, 2026, they announced that Caitlin Clark had been named the TIZOT MVP of the FIBA Women's Basketball World Cup qualifying tournament in San Juan, Puerto Rico. The announcement was straightforward. It cited her tournament-leading assists, her shooting efficiency, her best-in-team efficiency rating, and her role in leading Team USA to a perfect 5-0 sweep. FIBA's own announcement specifically noted that she impressed across all 5 games, that she recorded a tournament-best 6.4 assists per game, that she was the second highest scorer for Team USA, and that she had returned to wearing a national team jersey for the first time since winning the TIZOT MVP at the FIBA Under-19 Women's Basketball World Cup back in 2021. So here is the situation FIBA created for themselves. Their own fan vote, running simultaneously with the tournament, was being flooded with suspicious activity in a way that was documented publicly. And their own official MVP selection process arrived at an outcome that directly contradicted what the fan vote was showing. Their judges looked at 5 games of performance, looked at the statistical record, and chose Clark. Not because of fan votes, because of what actually happened on the court. That decision is the receipt. That is FIBA's own organization, through their own official process, telling you exactly who dominated that tournament. And it makes the fan vote look even more hollow than it already did, because now you have the contrast in black and white. The manufactured result of an unprotected poll said one thing. The official determination by people who were actually watching the games said something completely different. The fan vote result has not been officially invalidated. FIBA has not announced any investigation into the voting patterns. The disclaimer at the bottom of their page continues to do the work they intended it to do, shielding them from accountability. And that inaction carries its own message. It tells everyone watching that FIBA is not particularly interested in the integrity of the systems they promote, as long as the systems come with sufficient legal cover. What comes next and why it matters? The easy narrative here is that this was just a fan poll, unofficial, irrelevant, harmless in the grand scheme of things. Caitlin Clark got the real award. She got the official recognition. The stats backed it up. Move on. But that framing misses the point entirely. The fan vote matters not because of what it awarded, but because of what it documented. Every time a suspicious dynamic like this plays out in a public, visible space, it adds weight to a larger conversation that women's basketball cannot afford to keep avoiding. The conversation about weather outcomes in this league, whether votes, narratives, award conversations, or media coverage, are being shaped by factors that have nothing to do with what the players are actually doing on the court. Clark came back from a season that could have ended her momentum permanently. She showed up in San Juan and led Team USA through a perfect tournament. She led the entire field in assists. She shot the ball at an elite level. She did everything a player is supposed to do to earn recognition. And the first major unofficial measure of public opinion tried to tell a completely different story in real time, in a way so clumsy and so obvious that thousands of people caught it as it was happening. That is not a coincidence to be shrugged off. That is a pattern to be confronted. And the confrontation starts with documentation, which the fans have already done, with transparency, which FIBA has so far refused to provide, and with accountability, which remains the missing piece in nearly every story like this one. The 2026 WNBA season is coming. Clark will be back with the Indiana Fever, fully healthy, carrying the energy of a tournament MVP performance and a comeback story that her critics have to reckon with. Bueckers will be stepping into the league as a highly anticipated Dallas Wings addition. The competition between these two players on the court is going to be one of the most compelling storylines in women's basketball all year. But the competition needs to be about basketball, not about who has the most sophisticated automated voting infrastructure. FIBA has an opportunity here. They can look at the data from their own fan poll. They can publish their findings, even if those findings are embarrassing. They can implement vote verification before running another poll. They can take the disclaimer off the bottom of the page and actually build a system worth standing behind. Whether they take that opportunity or continue to hide behind the language they already printed tells us exactly what kind of organization they want to be going forward. And the fans are not going anywhere. They have the screenshots. They have the timestamps. They have the documented evidence of what happened in those 15 minutes when 7,000 votes appeared from nowhere and tried to rewrite what the court had already decided. The internet does not lose that kind of evidence. It archives it, shares it, and pulls it back out every time another suspicious moment needs context. Women's basketball deserves better than a system where manipulation can operate this openly and still go without official consequence. The players deserve better. The sport deserves better. And the millions of fans who showed up for this tournament, who watched every game, who voted honestly in a poll that was being gamed in real time, absolutely deserve better. Caitlin Clark is the official FIBA TIZOT MVP of the 2026 San Juan qualifying tournament. The numbers said it before FIBA announced it. And now everyone has seen, in high resolution, exactly what it looks like when someone tries to say otherwise. Drop your take in the comments right now. Do you think FIBA should investigate the fan vote data, or Is this something they're just going to let slide? And if you want to stay on top of every story like this as it develops, make sure you are subscribed and